Okay, great. So, welcome everybody. I hope you get a good lunch. Now we start with the discussion panel, Situating Conservation Education in the EAZA Vision. And for this discussion panel we have, of course, we need some panelists. And Constance, Eileen, please sit here. No? Oh, you wait for her, okay. And we have, of course, Mufenri, but that's not a surprise because he's on the screen already. So, like, we have some new standards, yeah, we told about it, and EAZA has a new mission, new vision, so zoos are moving. We have to move if you want to be progressive zoos and aquaria saving species. So that's what this discussion panel will be about. And we have 4 panelists, as I said, and Mufendi Griffith has been the executive director of EAZA since 2014. Prior to this, she managed, yeah, I read, the EAZA Academy and worked as a lecturer in Animal Management College in UK, and she has a strong interest in conservation education and believes in the power of zoos and aquariums to influence human behavior to help save species. But she's also interested in, and she didn't write it down here in numbers, but you know. So, Mufenri will be in the panel. She will start telling something about the explanation of the new EAZA vision and mission. And maybe we are going to start with that part then. So, Mufenri, you can start.
Excellent, thank you, Klaas. And I'm sure everybody in the audience holds previous and current EAZA visions and missions close to their heart, like I do. You know, you go to sleep with the document under your pillow, so you know all the words. But just in case not, I wanted to start with a little bit of history, because actually, well, I think COVID times has messed up people's memory, but in a way, EAZA is still fairly young. I would say we're entering our kind of young adult years at the moment now. But when we first had our very first vision as a new and emerging regional zoo and aquarium association, that vision was all about us being the best kind of membership organization that we wanted to be. And this is where I joked a little bit at the start, actually, because even I can't remember that previous vision. It was kind of wordy, but along the lines of, you know, being the best zoo and aquarium association in Europe and the Middle East was at that time. So really, I think of that vision as being our starter. We wanted to make sure that we were going to be a good association. And that vision held true for many years, actually about 14, 15 years. And then a few years ago, we sort of said, I think actually we are a really good membership organization. I think we've got a lot of good standards and policies in place. We have a lot of wonderful members doing wonderful work. So actually, I think we've achieved the Be a Good Membership Organization vision. What is our next vision going to be? And this is when we went into a consultative process with starting off with our different committees, including the Conservation Education Committee, to sort of say, well, where do you see EAZA? What do you feel our new vision should be? What do we want to be as we enter our sort of more young adult years as an association? And that came up with sort of some draft versions. And any of you that's been involved in drafting anything will know that it goes through quite a lot of different sort of wordsmithing and different opinions. And very much from an EAZA perspective, we wanted to come up with a vision that everybody could see themselves in and see them being part of EAZA to achieve. And that vision then, the near final version, went to our annual conference in Emmen, and then we had individual members and a lot of really good audience discussion that came up with the vision that we have today. And this is very much, from my point of view, a very forward-thinking vision. I also very much like it because Klaas mentioned a lot of it in his title, talking about the vision. So hopefully it's also a vision that people can connect with, but also remember as well. And I'm just going, I don't know now, Klaas, did you want me to share my slides, or were they all part of a slide deck that you had ready?
We were just discussing, but maybe we can combine my presentation with your face on the screen. So we try that. So hold on a second.
Okay, lovely.
Pavel is doing it. Yes. The next one. Oh. Number 3. Oh, but Mufenri, you have to say when we have to go to the next then, because there's an animation in your third sheet, I know.
There is some animation, yes. I didn't want to give too much away too soon. But hopefully now you should see an orange circle that's filled in and then a green circle that says vision. And so this is our vision. And we very much feel of it as a holistic vision. But I also, in a way, kind of like how it can be broken down into 3 different parts. So the first part...
Maybe you can share your screen, but that's easier for your...
Oh, share my screen.
Yeah,
sorry,
better.
I thought misunderstood. Hang on. Yeah. Let me just... 1 second, and now
yes.
Right.
No, not anymore.
No,
it was
what
just
happened
there.
there?
It was
I
just
got disconnected.
Yes.
Is that better?
Don't do anything. Just talk.
Excellent. Okay. So yes. So as I said, we really see the vision as a holistic thing altogether. But also, when I talk about it, I do like to break it down into 3 parts, because we have the first bit, progressive zoos and aquariums, and that's really important for us to be leading and continually moving forwards. We definitely had a lot of discussion about the word progressive amongst our multicultural and multi-language community, but this was seen to be the one that meant the same thing to the most amount of people in terms of constantly evolving, constantly looking to improve. It doesn't always mean that everybody is the absolute best they can be. We see variety amongst our membership, but that kind of desire to be progressive, to keep improving, was seen to be core to what we wanted in our new vision. And then this is where we then say, well, to be progressive zoos, we're looking to save species. And this is very much identifying us moving from saying we're a good membership organization to saying, what are we going to do with that membership organization? And our expertise is in species. Again, a lot of discussion. Well, species need habitats. Do we want to say, saving the world, saving the environment? But actually, our expertise is on the species level. And this is kind of unique for us compared to other organizations. So we really wanted to put the focus on saving species. And we also recognize the scale of the problem facing us today if we want to save species. And we've realized that this is not something we can do on our own, and we need to do it in partnership with other people. And so this last part of the vision, the Together With You, was to indicate that bit. And this Together With You actually does a lot of heavy lifting, as we would say, because the Together With You is our individual EAZA members working with each other. If we don't work together as a community, then we're not going to save species. Our population management programs aren't going to work. We're not going to have excellent events like this conference where we get to share knowledge. So With You can mean EAZA members, but also, of course, we're not doing this on our own. It can mean other institutions, other zoos and aquariums, but also other NGOs that are working in the field of environmental work and conservation. So IUCN specialist groups, it could be BirdLife, it can be the work that we do with traffic, it can be work within the European Commission or other bodies there as well. And so that can help with some of the projects that we want to be involved in and some of the platforms that we want to talk about. But also, as I'm sure you all know in the room, it's the individual person and their actions that can actually make some of the biggest changes to helping save species. So the With You is also with our visitors, with our guests, with the people that we interact with through our membership as well. So therefore, when we're thinking about our vision, we want to be progressive zoos and aquariums, saving species together with you. And then that gets broken down into the mission that just describes that in a little bit more detail. So we still want to be a membership organization, but we recognize in that element that one of the things we want to do is set these standards. And that means that our conservation education standards are going to be continually evolving. Of course, our standards for accommodation and care, etc. And so we are like sort of setting what it means to be a good zoo, a progressive zoo. And again, thinking about our EAZA region, Europe, Western Asia, but also recognizing that now we have members beyond our sort of main region. We have members in New Zealand, we have members in Singapore, in Taipei, etc. So, you know, we're kind of looking to expand and get more numbers, because you know how I like my numbers. And so when we're talking about setting that standard, this is that second paragraph in that orange circle. We're striving to continuously define and demonstrate. So not only do we want to say what it is, but we want to demonstrate our excellence in integrated species conservation. And this means that we want to work together in all those aspects of species conservation and be transparent about it and collaborative. And those elements about, when we talk about conservation, we're talking about population management, wild animal care and welfare, representation with international organizations, conservation education, and backing all of that up with scientific research. So that's really how we're, like, our mission is how we're going to like live and work towards our vision. And then on a more specific scale, when we get down to kind of like the day-to-day work, that then is reflected in our different focal areas. And the focal areas that we have cover 5 different areas. And the first one is leading in zoo and aquarium animal management and care. Want to look after animals and do well there. The second one is about maximizing our conservation impact and engagement. You might already have a hint about where a lot of the conservation education work fits within these areas. We also want to represent our community at national, EU and international levels. As I said before, we want to help facilitate and guide and back up those values with scientific work. So the statements that we're making, the decisions we're making are based on good, solid science. And if we're going to do all this wonderful conservation work, if we're going to save species, we need to manage our operations to reduce our environmental footprint as well. Make sure that we're actually doing what we say we want to do and not being part of the problem, but part of the solution to help support species. So that's our vision, our mission, and the 5 focal areas. And I know part of our panel discussion today was sort of having some interaction and discussion about where we see conservation education fitting into these different areas in terms of, do you see yourself in that vision? Where might you think some of the work you're doing and you're doing with EAZA could fit? So I feel like I'm going to stop sharing now, so I can see all your lovely faces back on my screen, and then hand back a bit to Klaas-Jan, because I think he's then going to do some of the interactive work.
Yes, thank you, Mefenri. So I really forgot to invite you to have some comments and some questions to the panelists. So Mefenri was the first one. So I wonder if there's any question or comment. Don't be shy to ask to Mefenri on these topics. Otherwise, I have to do this once. I don't like this. Nobody. So shy, Mefenri.
Too shy.
So what do you think?
I'm not too scary. You can ask any question.
Yeah, Mefenri is kind. Come on. Okay, Mefenri, we discussed about how conservation education should look in 2030. So, but maybe we can ask you, how do you think educators fit in this mission and vision, and how educators, not education, but the educators should like to be in 2030, so we can use in our workshop?
Yeah, well, I'm going to fall back on looking at those 3 areas of the vision, because to be progressive zoos and aquariums, we do need to keep learning and keep moving forwards. And so definitely what I see for the future of conservation educators working in EAZA members is that you are still coming to conferences like this to share your best practice, to get the word out there. I'd love to see more of you here, and more indeed non-EAZA members and EAZA members discussing it, because the more we can work together in that community, the better. I'd also love to see, and I kind of mentioned it a bit in my opening presentation yesterday, more research of all the great work that you're doing coming out of conservation education into things like JSAR, but also other journals as well, to kind of demonstrate that we are being progressive. I think we are doing a lot of really good work, but sometimes we're our own I don't know, like shy friends, you know? We don't like to tell everybody about the good stuff that we're doing. And I know research can be hard, and especially for conservation educators, you know, you've got a lot to do in the zoo, and doing some research and then publishing the research might not be the focus. But I'd really like to see a growing body of research and that scientific evidence backing up the great work you're doing to be progressive. And then that maybe links onto the middle part of the vision, the saving species. because here I see a really strong role for conservation education to help both in the zoo and in the field. In the zoo, that element is about, for me, really engaging the visitors with the work that you do in your individual zoo to save species and how that work links to the EAZA community, for us to all save species together. But I also see a great deal of work for conservation education out in the field. Either working directly with your own projects that your zoo's running, or if you're a smaller zoo, supporting other projects with helping people deal with like human-animal conflict on the ground or understanding issues of trade, so that we're able to not only change and work with behavior of our visitors, but work with behavior of people in range countries that might be impacting on species conservation as well. And you guys have that knowledge and the ability to explain things to people in a way they're going to understand and connect with. Maybe I'm going to say much more than our traditional field scientists that have all that really good species knowledge, but not necessarily people knowledge, without doing them a disservice. And then the last part of that vision was together with you. And I think definitely from the conservation education perspective, again, just, connecting and working with each other like we do through these conferences, through EAZA Academy courses, in that element, I think is really good. And I know that Antoinetta, in her opening session yesterday, also talked about the work that she does with the International Zoo Educators organisation. And I think being able to make those partnerships there is good. And I would love in the future for us to have more of a voice and a seat at the table in the IUCN Commission on Education and Communication. Because definitely when I get involved in that committee, I don't see enough of a zoo and aquarium voice. And I'd love for more of us to get involved in really helping the IUCN think about conservation education involving zoos and aquariums a lot more. So just a few small asks in there, but I have confidence in your abilities and enthusiasm to work towards these things. I do think they're really achievable for us as we move forwards.
Okay, thank you, Mufandri. Is there more questions now or comments? Otherwise, we go to Antonietta. Okay, we will start a presentation from Antonietta. Stay with us, Mufandri, because maybe there's some questions. So, Antonietta. As you know Antoinetta as head of education of Lisbon Zoo and also our chair of Conservation Education Committee, and yes, she will talk about what the Conservation Education Committee will do to achieve the mission and vision of EAZA. No, it's just this one from 5. Yep.
So hello everybody. Now you all know me, and I'm going to situate conservation education in the EAZA vision. But as my friend said, conservation education is a key activity for zoo and aquariums, and that means that education is part of conservation work. And sorry. Sorry, I need my glasses also. It's here. Okay, much better. So, and I've been talking about the standards, the conservation education standards, and I noticed that in the room, some of you never heard about it, and I was a little bit worried about it. So I will focus my brief presentation here about it. It's because the Conservation Education Committee has been developed by the Conservation Education Standards. Has been developed by the EAZA Education Committee to help guide, inform, and provide a coordinated approach to the best practices of conservation educations in zoos and aquariums. And this document is reviewed by the committee every 5 years. And now we reviewed this document to be more more aligned with the EAZA strategic plan, and also with the World Conservation Education Strategy. So, and as I think I told you before, oh, sorry. I told you before that this document only needs a final approval in the AGM, in Director's Day, next April, and then it will be seen by everybody and it will spread the news. So, it is intended for use by anyone who supports conservation education in a zoo and an aquarium setting, and is a living document that will evolve to meet the changing needs of conservation education. So, let's see the importance of conservation education in zoo aquariums. So, and the EAZA Conservation Education mission, what it is. So, to mitigate the extinction of biodiversity through quality conservation that raises awareness, connects people to nature, encourage sustainable behaviors in the millions of people that engage with EAZA zoos and aquariums annually. Okay. What happened? Sorry. Yeah. So, okay, sorry. So, and the term, we use the term conservation education in not only education. Why? So, and it means to include all activities that make an indirect contribution to biodiversity conservation, such as education for sustainability, development, biological science or environmental education, and practical skills-based programs. So conservation in education englobes all these. Okay. So, but how conservation education standards help to achieve the EAZA vision? So, these conservations are focused on taking a strategic approach to providing effective biodiversity-focused education that connects visitors to nature and empowers them to take positive action to contribute to conservation. So, is that what you want? Positive actions. Okay. So, but there was a need for a world zoo and aquarium conservation education strategy. So, who already saw this document? Well, I'm glad that, but still some hands down. Okay. So, this document born from our EAZA conservation standards, and they were launched in 2020. Okay, so if you don't know, please search on the ICD website. You can download it. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a little bit about the EAZA conservation standards and what does it really focus on. So we have a big team, conservation education culture, that, well, it reflects on the zoo role and the written mission statement. So we have to have a written mission statement, a written conservation education plan. So you have to, if you don't have it, you have to talk to think about that. Okay. This plan must outline the zoo's conservation education activities, how they apply to different types of audiences, and strategic thinking behind the plan design. And this education plan must also make specific reference how the zoos has integrated their mission and vision, and has applicable national, regional and international policies into its conservation education programs. And of course we have to have facilities to deliver our educational programs, but the facilities can be a room or outside. It's not necessary to have a specific room. Okay, and also must be an integral part of the exhibit design. So another big theme is purpose of conservation education, and it should aim to build knowledge and understanding about species, natural world, and zoos and aquarium contributions to conservation, foster positive connections, emotions, attitudes, values, and empathy towards species, the natural world, and zoo and aquariums, promote wonder, enjoyment, creativity, and inspiration about species and natural world, motivate pro-environmental behaviors, actions, and advocacy towards species in the natural world, develop scientific, technical, and personal skills connected to zoos and aquariums and biodiversity conservation. So, and we have to promote conservation education for all. It means that provide opportunities to learn about and get involved with conservation on-site, off-site, and online. And we should be able to demonstrate a range of delivery approaches in their conservation education programs to get a different type of audiences and needs. Okay, and through applying appropriate approaches and methods. So we must be specific reference and applying a cross-curricular approach with measurable learnings outcomes in all aspects of zoos conservation education programs, and they must be based on scientific facts. Okay. And we must be also accurate to relevant information about species, ecosystems, and issues exhibit in line with any guidance provided by the EAZA. So, in this, I suggest you to consult the EAZA website, because you have all the guidelines you need, all the information about species. There are lots of information in the EAZA website that can help you with this accurate information about the species. And this is a new standard that we these new standards will strengthen the World Strategy recommendation to an obligation to demonstrate EAZA commitment both to promoting positive welfare and engaging with all our audiences. So we included integrated animal care and welfare into conservation standards. So this is new, okay? So any use of animals for conservation education purposes at the zoo must comply with the EAZA standards for the accommodation and care of animals in zoos and aquarium, and should comply with any other relevant EAZA guidelines or animal visitors interactions. So it is now included in our standards, okay? So, and the zoo must connect audiences to principles of animal care and show how their organization achieves high welfare standards for the species in their care. So this is totally new, okay? Another standard that is a little different, but because we strengthened the words compared to the previous one from 2016 that is now updated, to be and also to be in line with the EAZA field conservation standards. So, in this EAZA field conservation standards, you can find it also in the EAZA website. So here we changed the word, we strengthened the words to prioritize the conservation and sustainability. So conservation education in zoos should aspire to make conservation issues relevant to audiences' own lives and experiences, and inspire people to participate in direct and indirect conservation actions for species, ecosystems, and communities. And the zoo must educate their audiences about their own conservation and sustainability work by demonstrating how their own zoos make direct and indirect contributions to conservation. So we had it, we just strengthened the words. Okay, that's it. Another standard that we strengthened the wording compared to the world strategy and the previous standards from the 16. So it's about training and professional development, because we strongly believe that professional development and training is necessary for all staff members, while recognizing that this does not have to be formal or external training. For example, you being here is a training. So, and I'm very happy to see many delegates here that are first comers. So, training in professional development is very important, and the zoo must have at least one member of staff with necessary experience and qualifications that are responsible for leading and implementing the zoo conservation education plan. And about this, if you have, we'll share guidelines to the conservation education plan very briefly in the EAZA website. So, and zoos should support staff and volunteers involved in conservation education. In zoos to be actively involved in local, national, regional and international conservation education networks and meetings. So, like my family told us about, so it's very important to be and to connect with others, not and work together, not be in our own zoos, work together with others, okay? Zoos must support staff involved in conservation education in zoos with the appropriate continuous professional development and training to be able to meet the aims of conservation education plan. So, and this is really important. So we strengthen the words here because we really strongly believe on this. So that this professional development and training is really necessary. And that's it for my.
Okay, thank you, my friend. I'm sorry, Antoinetta. Any questions or comments to Antoinetta? Yes, there is. Laura.
I just have a comment to say that for those of you who are curious about digging more into what's changed, how it compares, in the files for the opening session in the agenda, you will be able to download a PDF which has side by side the recommendations from the World Zoo and Aquarium Conservation Education Strategy, the 2016 standards, and the proposed new standards. And as Antonietta said, as soon as we have official approval, we will be publishing them and singing and shouting from the rooftops to let you all know about the updated version.
So I suggest you to really, the EAZA website is a very useful resource, so please use it.
Any more questions? So I can imagine that like these conferences should inspire us all and motivate us to do our job, but my God, we have to do a lot of work. And maybe for the first comers who haven't seen the standards before, we will have to let them get home motivated as well. So how will Conservation Education Committee help all of these people to achieve, just to fulfill the mission and vision of EAZA?
Well, all the committee members are here to help, so don't be shy and ask for help, okay? And we are publishing guidelines about the conservation education plan, evaluation, outcomes, about everything. So please don't be shy, ask. You have my email, so please let us know. My email, Laura's email, everyone in the committee can help, and we are here to help.
Okay, show hands. Who's frightened now? Nobody. Everyone is. Oh, you are Christian.
Oh.
No, you never are. So everyone is motivated.
I hope so.
Any questions? Any comments?
Okay.
Okay, then we continue with. Yeah, I will come there. Look like Lithuanian.
Well, just everyone's looking now. Hi, Daria from Talenjo. Now, I wanted to ask, will you give any, like you personally, Education Committee, will you give any updated guidance to the screening teams who
Yes.
are actually like...
Yes. Yes, and fortunately we have an educator as a screen. Class is now a screener. Yes, definitely. And who is to be screened and have problems or have issues, have questions, please let us know.
And can you share like what will the guidance actually be? Because there are many standards. And
it depends on the person. It depends on the issues.
To finish the question, so there are many standards, and I imagine that quite a few zoos are doing really well in some of them and not so well like in others. And our experience with the screening process was that the education part took a really short time, and they didn't go like point by point. So how will that change?
Well, maybe you can answer that.
Yeah, I think that's why educators can be screeners since like 2 years ago or something, and like I will do my first screening in this month at the end of the month. So for me it's quite new. I did some screenings in the Netherlands, but it's still like kind of new to screen on animal welfare shows, etc., etc. So like if you are a good screener, and most of them are just curators, then they need to watch to the standards of education, because maybe that's an area of the zoo they really don't have they don't have a lot of knowledge about. So yeah, I think they should do that, and yeah, you have to prepare for a screening very well. There's a lot of documents you have to read before the screening. So yeah, the EAZA education standards should be in there. And yeah, I know my zoo was screened many years ago, then it was just a little time for education, so I agree. So that's why it's important that we have more screeners from educators in EAZA. And they're really looking for screeners. Out of my head, it's only 5 years experience, am I right?
I think so, yeah.
Something like that. But you have to, it's not like if you apply, it's not okay. You have to apply. Okay. So we continue with Eileen now. Okay, great. Eileen Tennant. Maybe you know her, maybe you don't. But I will introduce her. She's the head of the Discovery and Learning at Dublin Zoo since 2015. Prior to this, she delivered the Climate Justice Schools Project, a collaboration between schools in Ireland and Tanzania to build capacity to tackle climate change. Eileen is a former science teacher and currently lectures in science education to undergraduate primary education students. My God, what a sentence. She wants to work with you all to build conservationists of the future. So, go ahead.
Hello. I'm going to get everybody to do their best given arms. Are we ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, I had pasta for lunch, so I'm a bit dozy. So apologies in advance because I will likely speak quite fast. It's part of the affliction of Irish people. We tend to rush when we speak. So if I go too fast at any stage, please just raise your hand and I'll know to slow down. Tomislav, I can't go any slower. Okay, so I'm just going to give the experience that I've had in pulling together a master plan for conservation education at Dublin Zoo. So I was part of some of the training academies with EAZA on strategic planning, so I guess that's probably why I was asked to come along today,
yes.
As we shared some of this. So Mefanu was talking about visions, purpose, and all of that stuff, and maybe the overuse of strategy in some of these discussions. But it is really important, and much like what Mefanu had said, we went around deliberating on what our vision and our purpose was, and we wanted everybody in our organisation to recognise or see where they fit into it. So our vision is a world where people live in harmony with nature. Our purpose is we are Dublin Zoo, we save wildlife and inspire a passion for nature, one person, one family at a time. So I was trying to communicate in this one the important role that everybody in the zoo has in having an engagement with the public or with learners or with whatever audience to try and bring them on that journey to inspire the passion for nature. So this was all happening when we got a new director, all of this process. Christoph Schwitzer is our new director, which he began in August 2020. We're in lockdown, it was a pretty grim time. So in August 2021, we kicked it off. And just to go back up, oh no, it's not on my first slide. Might be on my next one. We're going to be 200 years old in 2031. So we wanted to make sure that we were working towards something to celebrate our big 200th birthday. And we wanted to be a lot more ambitious in what we were doing. So our objectives are to save wildlife in Ireland and globally. So we're working a lot more on native conservation. We're setting up currently a National Centre for Species Survival within the zoo. We want to be a cutting-edge zoo inspiring a passion for nature so that we are inspiring people to come and visit us more often. Conservation leadership is something that I have to say we weren't brilliant at up until the last number of years. We're finally growing our conservation and science team. We have one person there so far, but that team is currently growing. They'll go into the new National Centre for Species Survival. Number 4 is the one that sits very much under my remit. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. It sits under everybody in the zoo's remit. But cultivating the next generation of conservationists. So we already deliver from preschool up to 3rd level, but we want to move into higher education partnerships to deliver undergraduate and master's programs. I know many of you guys probably do that in your zoos already, but it's not something we've taken part in, apart from guest lecturing. And then to operate a sustainable visitor attraction. So they're the overarching objectives. So I'm just going to delve into what I did in terms of the Conservation Education Master Plan. So I decided, okay, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here. Why would I do that? I went to the EAZA strategy. I said, I'm just going to copy it. Okay, why would I rewrite something where we have a set of standards that the whole international zoo community has agreed to deliver on? By doing this also, I thought, we are all in this together. So again, this is how I'm going to feed into that overarching strategy. So I looked at the social change for conservation. So again, encourage everybody. Antoinette, I hope you like the plug. Everybody download it and make sure you're very familiar with it. And then it also follows the conservation guidelines set out by EAZA and BIAZA. Having said that, it's the old set, not the new, but there's not a huge amount of difference. So I relied on the network to do this, and then what we generated here is the following Conservation Education Master Plan, which I just got a print copy on Monday morning. I had to wait before I went to the airport to get this. You can click on hopefully that link works. It was just uploaded to our website yesterday. But as I say, everything in that is coming from the EAZA strategy. I tailored everything in it to our zoo and Ireland and the situation that we were in. And from that, then, I brought my team along in the process. So I'm going to dive back a bit in terms of involving educators in the process. It is very time consuming to do this work. It probably happened for us at a really good time. Well, sorry, COVID was not a good time. But at a time when we probably had a little bit more time to have focus groups and meetings and so on. So when we were at the stage of pulling together this document, we held focus groups throughout the site with different team members. There were cross-team focus groups as well as individual team focus groups. The education department or discovery learning team had the highest level of engagement in that process because they really believed in the overall purpose and vision. And they wanted to see a lot of changes. They had a lot of ideas, did a lot of innovations that they wanted to bring in. So during that process, we had team members involved. And then when we were coming to the process of writing up this document here, I involved the team members with that process. However, on the areas that they had the most expertise in. I made sure that they had spoke about, their experience as educators and what they were facing I'm a little bit removed now because I'm not in front of classes as much as I used to be. So I had to rely on their knowledge and skills and experiences. For other areas where it's more strategic, high-level thinking, it's not always possible to involve every educator. So I know I might have more questions on that in terms of that process. Why is this important? Huge amount of effort to generate this 34-page document. But it just means that if I'm going to donors, if I want to work in collaboration with other organizations and so on, I can put this in front of them saying, here's where we're going. Are you going to come with us? Are you going to also help us generate the conservationists of the future? And it kind of puts us out there. It gives us a better perception of what we're doing, a better understanding of what we're doing. From that then, which is what I don't have on the slide, and I brought in person, so you know that it's a real document, I have a big master planning file, and it goes through all of the commitments and priorities that are in this document here on the screen, and I have it broken down into the delivery dates over the coming 5 years. This is taking me up to 2031, but at 2035, obviously I'm going to do a big review because a strategy is not a fixed thing, or I should say a master plan is not a fixed thing. It's something that changes, and we need to review what we're doing. Much like we do as teachers, we reflect on our practice. And I think that's about it. That's where I am at the moment.
Great, thank you. Any question, comments? Frightened people? Still motivated? Ah, okay. Whoop.
Just say that again. That is a great question. A huge amount of time. So I think the biggest challenge for us as educators is actually finding the hours together because of hectic schedules. And that's why I said the timing of this was good, because we went back to face-to-face engagement fully. So we had a little bit more breathing space to sit down and have 2-hour meetings. So we would have workshopped different topics. So talking about accessibility and inclusivity, we would have sat down and had a couple of hours on that together. I actually can't quantify the number of hours. I know personally, I definitely did quite a bit of work outside of my normal work hours to get that delivered. But the other thing I'll just say, to get to what I've done here is part of a bigger process in Dublin Zoo with all of our strategic planning and master planning for conservation education, sustainability. We want to push forward. We're in this paradigm shift of a zoo-based conservation organisation rather than just a zoo that does conservation. Not everybody has to invest that amount of time to get what you need done. You don't necessarily need a glossy, handbook to pass out. So what's done here is a lot of time, but I suppose my message I'm trying to say is that you don't need.
But it's on the website, right?
This is on the website, yeah.
So if you scan the QR code, it will save a lot of time. You can just copy.
Oh, hey, guys, I took it from the EAZA strategy. No, but it's there, and just to say that thank you to anybody I contacted. I was looking for support in how did you do it? What did you do? And I reached out to people individually. So thank you to the people that helped on that. But yeah, reach out to me as well. I can send on a blank template of the master planning document we use, because why not? We're all in this together.
Okay, before we go to Constanze, maybe I have one more question. You told us that you used the World Conservation Education Standards, actually, but did you use the mission and vision of EAZA in your plan? Because I think my friend, we want to hear that. Maybe she's not there.
It's well, from what we see, from what Mafanoe spoke about, I can see that it is in the plan, and I think because they're all joined up, I think they all come together. Did I go and copy exactly what the EAZA vision and mission was? No, but
you checked it. It's in there, so it's okay.
Yeah,
great.
I hope so.
Okay, great. Any more? Okay, then we go to Constanze. We all know Constanze, of course. Constanze is the head of Constanze is the manager conservation, research and education at the Royal Burgers Zoo in the Netherlands. She studied zoology at the University of Vienna, and after study she became education officer at Apenheul Primate Park in the Netherlands. And since 2011 she is in Burgers Zoo, and she does a really good job on conservation in Belize, or in the field, whatever. And she's here because she's in the panel because, of course, she's involved in she involved educators in conservation projects. So, Constance, go ahead.
Congratulations to Klaas for inventing this very nice introduction. Thank you very much.
LinkedIn, you can all find it.
I didn't take the time to deliver some text, but anyway, indeed, most of you know me. But indeed, I want to share 3 minutes with you, and I hope there will be some questions or some comments on the very interesting and amazing developments that are now going on. Indeed, education and conservation is now really breaking our boundaries. It's not only in situ and ex situ, but it's merging more and more. And it's, of course, now all about the one plan approach. And as before, we were busy with groups in our zoo and talking about local things, but also from what's happening somewhere else. Now it's really the crossover, the reaching out is much, much more going global. And there are a few nice ideas or inspirational initiatives I want to talk to you about, of things to consider when you want to engage in making a global impact on conservation education. Klaas has already mentioned that Burgers Zoo, together with a couple of other zoos, by the way, in Europe that have joined in, has a large conservation project in Belize since more than 30 years. Of course, it helps a lot if you have one major project and keep that for many years, and rather really support one project that you can build up connections with the people that work there, than to have 20 projects which you switch very often, which might be really a pain in the ass. Before you know what's going on in a project, you jump over the next project. And to be truth, in the 1980s and 90s, conservation education in Belize was not really a big thing. It was more like buying land, making sure that it's not deforested, and building a fence around it. But in the end, you know, the land, the area got bigger and bigger. It's now 400 square kilometers. The idea was also from, well, it's not really good if zoos or any private entity is owning so much area in another country, right? A Swiss zoo and a Dutch zoo. Why should we own so much country in a third world country or in a southern country? So in 2013 it was decided that the area should be redonated to the Belizean government, and put it in an eternity trust, so it cannot be used anywhere else than being a conservation area, but that our zoos continue also for eternity to pay all the management fees that is necessary. So actually at the moment there are more than 50 people working there, all Belizeans. And they do all the ranger work, the management work, the research work, and we just provide them with the sources, the money to do so. I think people that do really extremely well conservation work in the field, in situ, whether it's educators, whether it's rangers, whether it's researchers, what they should not do is lie awake at night struggling and worrying if they have enough money to pay the salary for the assistants or the co-workers in next month. So it's our real job to make the money, to make sure that they can contribute and make the good work done. So yes, I'm very much engaged in Belize. I go there each year. I take members of my staff and volunteers there. I have always meetings with people there. I do have some online training. Yes, sometimes I do love Zoom and the digital world in the meanwhile. The rangers were asking last year, and that is the thing. What are they asking for? So they asked if they could have training on animal behavior research methodology. So we had an online training on that. But it's funny that they came up with the same idea like we have, of many of us, as children's clubs, so monthly children's club stuff like that. So they wanted to try it out, they wanted to make more of it, and so just before Christmas we were able to transfer 28,000 euro for the continuation of 3 years of the children's clubs over there. By the way, that money was generated somehow within our zoo, but actually was generated by the sponsor club of the Belize project. So I think many of you might have sponsor clubs of the zoo or friends club, something like that. We don't have that. We have a sponsor club of the project. So that collects a lot of money. And of course I'm there for advice, but it's not me implementing my ideas how they should do it or which activities they should do. It's just helping them, enabling them to do their own project. And due to cultural differences, they do things different than I do. So when I come there, I'm always surprised how they do it and why they do it. But if they think that works and it's good evidence that it does work, I'm fine with it. A very different approach. That's already now 3 minutes, so I speed up a bit. Sometimes, yes, we just bring our knowledge or my knowledge or whoever else's knowledge somewhere else in another country and bring our plan and our idea, but often with a goal of reaching something else. So this is actually a very fancy hotel on the island of Principe, of the Republic Sao Tome and Principe. And if you don't know where it is in the world, then don't be worried. It's in just west of Gabon in the ocean in Africa. A very small country. It's called the Galapagos of Africa. Very high endemism, very interesting nature, high biodiversity. Very small population, 4,000 people. They do have their own president there. And it's networking, all about networking. So our director has a wife, and his wife knows somebody, and her husband owns this place. 5-star lodge, not the best, not the worst place to stay, I can tell you. And they have this large lodge there for ecotourists, high-end ecotourism, working possibilities for people there. They persuade fishers and other people to stop with their activities and come and start and work as guides in the hotels. And they had this area that was still open. Well, they asked me to make one panel on biodiversity, and it turned out that one panel was an 14 rooms museum to make. So we made a 14 rooms museum on biodiversity and culture and history and conservation in an old stable building. And it's nice for tourists. Schools comes there, but now comes, why do we do that? Why put so much effort in there? Well, the president of the island wanted a biodiversity museum somewhere on this small island to be proud of, and more or less he promised that he will make a marine reserve in the north of the island once he has the museum. So sometimes you do work. There was one Christmas holiday for me to write all the concepts. You do work with an aim to get in situ conservation done. Yes, education is done there, and I think we'd all be very happy if we'd have a zoo with an exhibition where people stay for 2 hours. But there's not much to do there somewhere, and it's airco in there as well, that helps. Yeah, it does. A nice overlap with just the previous speaker, Aileen, is master planning. Some of us, many of us, as you get more experienced, we're in the luxury position to have the knowledge about master planning of education. We have the means, we have sometimes the time, or we can make the time, and we can help in situ project with that kind of work. Because sometimes they do underestimate how much work it is and how much planning and strategy is in there. This was a project that was actually one of the projects that got money from the Silent Forest campaign for songbird breeding ex situ in local areas in Sumatra. But they were also planning to start up a kind of orangutan, a zoo is maybe the wrong word, sanctuary. They have some orangutans that were confiscated, that were not able to be put back into the wild. So they built islands and thought, well, there's a city of a couple of million people quite close by. They've never seen orangutan. We make some kind of sanctuary and people can visit the orangutans. And we can make education. And there was a question via the network of EAZA, who can help with some planning and with some ideas. I thought, well, why not? Another Christmas is coming. Christmas holiday in pandemic is not so very interested. So I just helped with outlining programs and saying, okay, you want eco-farm, but what's happening there? Why do you want an eco-farm? What should be the target? Just by asking questions and writing some programs and giving some outlines. I think it was quite helpful work. And in the end, they understood they should hire somebody really to do the real big master planning, and they're just about to open now. So even with a small input from our side, sometimes we can have quite a large effect somewhere else in the world to get the impact of conservation larger and really amplify it. So I think that's another very gratifying and rewarding aspect of our work in zoos in Europe.
Okay, thank you. Any question, comment? No, then I have one, of course.
Of course.
Because I prepared. Oh, Tomislav did. Like when we focus on the Belize project,
yes.
and you watch to the vision and mission of EAZA,
Yes.
Do you think you have to add something to improve something in your project in situ work?
Yes. For example, proper evaluation should be quite interesting in this one, because for the orangutan planning, when I'm more in charge actually, for each topic and each program that I gave them an idea for, also that one you could evaluate it in this way, and that's what you should do as well, and that's something they should enhance there. Yeah, I guess so. They do quite a lot on environmental education, sustainable development goals, yes, but I would see the real evidence-based evaluation apart from smiling children and being happy. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. And how do you think conservationists in the field, like in Belize, for example, and educators can help each other? What do they contribute to each other?
Contribute to each other in many ways, I guess. We are thinking, well, that's also not new, maybe to some of you. We are thinking about linking, for example, children's club to each other next year, as digital means get better and better. There's a little bit of issue with time, probably, but even when they're writing letters or emails or sending pictures, that can be very, very nice. And we, of course, need the field stories. So we absolutely need the field stories in our zoo to make it able to get more contribution, more donations, get sponsors and everything. We need the stories from the field. So that is something that is extremely, extremely important. Even with the sponsor club we have in our zoo. Yeah, they like my stories, they like my activities, but they also like to see the manager of the program talking about what's going on last year. I think it's very important. One nice thing that also connects with my last talk about volunteers. We have very, very talented volunteers also in making models. And we have indeed our Belize Hall in Burgershore as well. One of the volunteers made like a giant butterfly egg, a caterpillar, and a chrysalis. So like from papier mache and stuff like that size. You could pull out the anatomic stuff. And I thought, well, that really works nice in our zoo. And in the mangrove hall we have the same humidity and the same temperature, so why not? So she made it once again, and we brought it in our suitcases to Belize, and they're still using it 3 years later. So that's very small things, but it's really fine for everybody, I guess. Works fine.
Oh, good. Yep, Laura. She's come back, yeah? Yeah, well,
my family would like to come back for comments.
Well, let's see how this works. I'm a kind of Pavel. Yeah. Oh, she's there. No? No. Pavel, wake up. Want to see Mufenri. So Mufenri, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, and in a minute we will see you. So if you have any comments on this presentation?
No, I've been listening along and really enjoying it. I very much enjoyed you asking Eileen the hard question on behalf of me. But yeah. But I did want to just say, actually, I could see quite a lot of the EAZA vision in the work that she was doing. I really liked how well the conservation education part was integrated with the whole zoo strategy. I thought that was really nicely done. And so I think we don't always have to be very explicit about it, but it's nice to have that reflecting back to say, okay, are we being progressive here? Are we saving species? And is there some partnership or integration work there? And I could see all of those things in the presentation that you were giving, Eileen. And then also, just rounding off from Constanza's one, actually, I had a similar question to Klaas-Jan on, like, it sounds like a really comprehensive, actually, and lovely project that meets a lot of the things we want from EAZA. So was there anything else you wanted to add or improve upon? And you talked about the evaluation aspect, which also really nicely ties into that bit about wanting to have that evidence that I mentioned looking forward. So I'm super pleased that everybody's presentation is just reinforcing my message, which is lovely.
Good. Okay. I think we can end the session then. Or someone should have any more comment or question. I don't think so. No? So, Constanze.
Actually, the backpack. Yesterday, a colleague of mine, Carlijn, we were going to dinner, and we met a little girl, and the dog is missing.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just wanting my backpack, just in case you walk in the area of the zoo. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? And you see this dog somewhere.
He's aggressive.
It's like very aggressive. Now it's a kind of shepherd dog, but a teenage girl was walking around and saying, "Everybody seen the dog? It's escaped." So that's my last message.
Maybe you should.
Sometimes conservation is also on individual level.
So we go before we go to the next session. Maybe we all know we are motivated. We are not desperate. And if we look to the EAZA website and the vision and the mission, well, if you follow them, we know the new standards, so we will make it. We do a lot of things already, and sometimes you can also look back to the mission and the vision. Oh yeah, okay, it fits. So that's good. So that's it for now. Next session. Thank you. Oh, thanks to my Henry, thanks to Constance, Eileen, and of course Antoinetta for being the speaker, being the panelist. Okay, great. Oh yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to make one quick housekeeping announcement while we're getting set up for the next session. If you've been looking ahead in the agenda, you'll see that we have something called Open Space tomorrow. And our idea with these sessions is that we know, especially with all the different very good and wide-ranging discussions we've had, all the interesting presentations, often you might have ideas and topics coming up in your head. You think, oh, I wish we had time to talk about that. Open Space is supposed to be that time, so basically anybody can propose a topic that they would like to talk about. If you do propose a topic, what that means is that we will ask you to find a place to have a conversation or just a monologue, potentially, with anyone else who's interested in the same topic as you proposed, and then come back and tell us about whatever you did during your open space time. So if you have ideas for things you'd like to talk about, we have a lovely, beautiful box, very fancy, no expense spared. Definitely didn't cut a hole in a box from our archive room. You can put your suggestions in here, and we will look at them tomorrow and form those groups then. So bring your ideas to the front of the stage, and I'll hand over to the next session.
Yeah, so hello. Our next session is about engaging diverse audiences. My name is Tanja Spengler. I'm from OpenZoo, and I'm the new member of the committee. Our first talk is about teenagers at zoos. And Katja Delaira of Parco Natura in northern of Italy, she will talk about teenagers. We all know it's quite hard for zoo educators to motivate younger, especially high school students. So let's hear what Katja says.
Hi everyone, I'm Katja. I'm the head of the education department of Parco Natura Viva. Our park is located in northeast of Italy, between the city of Verona, romantic, and Lake Garda, in a wooded area on the Moraine Hill, close to the lake, in a very touristic area. We are a private zoo, and it was founded in 1969. My talk is about internship program for teenagers. We would like to involve them in recording and creating a sound database about vocalization of the animals of our zoo, and also involve them in the daily activity of a common zoo. In Italy, each student in their third and fourth year of high school must do an internship of 90 to 120 hours. And this is a great opportunity. It represents a teaching method integrated with the classroom training, with a period of practical experience in a private or public organization. Through the students can get in touch with the world of work, acquire school credits, increase their knowledge about curricular knowledge, and also integrate some skill that could be useful for many different contexts and perhaps have some idea for their future choice of academic career. Through since many years through now, our zoo has had many agreements with many different high schools in Verona and its province to host students during this period. And through our foundation, that is ARCA Foundation, we will be able to participate with other organizations to a regional call, thus obtaining funding for a project that is called Sound Diversity. And it's environmental education project that want to make to raise awareness of children and teenagers about the soundscape that surround us, be it in our cities or in the wild. Soundscape is the acoustic environment as perceived by humans in the context, and acoustic environment is the combination all of acoustic resources, both natural and artificial, in a given area as modified by the environment, and is composed by different sounds, natural sounds, such animal vocalization, for example, this biophony, or sounds of the weather, natural sounds, and also geological phenomena, geophony, and anthropophony, that is the sounds generated by humans and human activities. As a zoo, we decided to get involved in this project, Sound Diversity, thinking that understanding the importance and the connection between soundscapes and biodiversity conservation, as so beautifully explained in this book that I think that many of you know, that is Silent Spring, Rachel Carson book. We used this book to explain to the students the importance of connection with the soundscape, with normal sounds that we can find in nature. And what is the title? The title derives from the observation of the spring field and the greater silence that there became after the massive use of insecticides, so the massive decrease also of the songbird population in nature. This was a very important book for environmental movement. And we start to talk about this and to introduce also, it's okay, the Silent Forest campaign, our EAZA campaign, to explain the students that zoos are involved also in the biodiversity conservation that involve soundscapes. Last summer, we host 48 students from 10 different high schools of Verona, and they were split in 7 groups that spent 1 to 2 weeks in our zoo. The design of the activity proposed to the team was the subject of a thesis by students from the University of Bologna that followed with me all the activity of the students, all day staying in the zoo. The same weekly schedule of activity was planned for each group. So students were involved in lessons about zoos, the institutional activities of a zoo as a scientific institution, and also the importance of soundscape and sound in our life. We talk about, of course, animal communication, and students were introduced to the use of ethnograms and how collect data on the for animal behavior, and also how to investigate and monitor the soundscape, and they keep the basic information about bioacoustic and the instrumentation that is used in this science. we also discuss about this case. I don't know if you know him. Is a case of Woodhouse scrub jay. Is a very important bird for the regeneration of the forest, the pine tree in particular in New Mexico, and is, however, a very sensitive animal to the artificial noise that can be they can be disoriented for this species. And what happened? These animals left the area, and a research in 2011 demonstrate that the pine tree was less than before, that fewer regeneration of the forest. And this was caused by the nearby continuous noise of a compressor of the natural gas extraction. And this is a good example to explain to the student how it is important to monitor the soundscape to protect biodiversity. Students were introduced to the use of course, recording device, and they make many different records inside in the zoo. 17 was quite good. And we involved the students also in many different workshops. Perhaps many of you knows the zookeeper zoo design workshop. So they have to plan to design a new enclosure for a species, a new species in our zoo, and they had to think about the needs of keepers, the needs of animals, and also they have to be sort of educators, so plan also the science for the visitors. The students were involved also in environmental enrichment. They participate. They participate to the talk, and finally, they were involved in the management of the Arca Foundation stall inside in the zoo. So they had to do many things to involve our public in education activities. They have to explain, talk about our conservation project. Okay, thank you. And they had to try to have some fund for our conservation project, and they really do a very, very good teamwork. Students were given a questionnaire, one before and one at the end, about their appreciation of the activities, and also we want to know how sounds are important in their life. In this slide, you can see that the main reason that for attending this internship was the personal interest in nature and animals, of course. They think that the internship was helpful for them to increase their knowledge of zoo, of animals, and they appreciate to be in contact with the nature. We ask them also about the mission of the zoo. Before, you can see is darkest, and the other is after. So you can see at the end of their internship period, they really think that zoo are education and conservation place, and that could be very useful also for reintroduction. This is also because our zoo is involved in many, in some reintroduction in nature about vulture, green-fern vulture, birded, and European bison, and also ibis. And what about the sounds? What value they do to perception of the sound in their daily life? You can see that the importance of sounds became bigger at the end of this period. We asked them also about the sound they are particularly fond of, and the sounds were related to childhood and family, the staying with their friends, but natural sounds in particular. And the sounds that mark their experience to the zoo was, of course, the sounds, the vocalization of the most noisy animal, the animals that make bigger vocalization, that are flamingo, parrots, and crane, of course, but also tigers, because they had it was very difficult, very hard for them to make a good record of the sound of this very shiny tiger that is Luva. And in this is my last picture. 1 minute. Oh, perfect. And some of our students of the last summer, some of them are still connected to our zoo because they became junior volunteers of our foundation. So we were very proud about these results, because it's not so easy for teenagers to become so active and involved in conservation. So thank you very much. This is my email. So if you want to have some more info, you can email me, or you can ask me something if you want.
Yeah, so thank you, Katja. It's a really great project, and I really like your involving the young kids as well. Yeah, our next talk is about other minorities at zoos. So it's Remi Koszynski. He's the head of the conservation. Oh, sorry, of the education department of Poznan Zoo. And he says that special needs mean regular possibilities.
Hi everybody. I would like to tell you about people with special needs. Special needs mean regular possibilities. I use the regular to systematic meaning because I think that we, it means educators and the workers, can teach and can learn in the same time. And I would like to put equal sign between two nouns, needs and possibilities. What does you mean? Of course, it's everybody knows this slogan, Progressive Zoo is protecting species with you. With you is very, very important. What does you mean? Of course, everybody knows that is pronoun grammatically, but in EAZA motto it means workers, co-workers and visitors. All visitors, all, it's very important. In this group, visitors with special needs. Special need has a huge meaning. We can't do everything with all groups in the same time, of course. Then we can concentrate on 3 of them. Visually impaired, deaf people, and autism spectrum disorder, ASD. They, all of them, want and can, it is very important, help us protecting endangered species. For example, let's start from visual impaired people. Maybe I come back to this slide. It means this group of visitors who, like others, like we, which can use our eyes, ear, would like to protect endangered species and would like to make and can make a great job for conservation nature, for biodiversity, for all of these aims or goals, and we can work together. We, I mean educators and people with special needs. We can teach and learn each other. It is very, very important, I think. We can work together. It's the keyword of my presentation. Visually impaired people. Could you close your eyes for the moment? Everybody? Paula too? Okay. Of course you can't see anything, but you can hear my voice and other voices around. You can touch something. You can smell. You yes, each other. But of course, you can use your senses. You can understand spoken language. You can use your native languages. You can listen. If you learn, you can use Braille alphabet in your native language. Many possibilities to understand how important conservation of nature is. You can still spread ideas, conservation, species, and biodiversity. You can still spread these ideas as other visitors. Visually impaired, because as you remember, I said that co-working is our keyword. Visually impaired people can work with us. We can work together. Visually impaired, for example, can consult our solutions and teach. They can teach us, educators, how to do it better. Is it very important because they understand what needs are most important for them, for this group of people. In this picture are workshops for visually impaired consultant of audio description in our old zoo, in Museum of Zoo History, and it's another. But the slogan is very important. We can work together. I think that we can work together, we can teach, we can learn each other, and we do it. And I would like to ask you to work together with people with special needs. It's not important that we, maybe not the most important that we have to do for them everything. Of course we can and we should, but the most important for me is that we can work it together with these people with special needs. Deaf people. No, the last picture is we have a lot of co-workers. Like his name is Pinot. This is assistant dog of one of our consultants. And also, as you can see, he work hard. Deaf people can't hear. A lot of them can't read the text too. It's very difficult for them. Often they are hard of hearing from birth. What does it mean? For example, for Polish deafs, Polish spoken language, or English for English deafs, of course, is like the foreign language. Written language or typed language too. Reading for them is very difficult. Sometimes they can't understand anything. And writing description isn't enough. But of course, we can check it and we can know it when we make some contacts with deaf people. Deafs use their own languages. Polish Sign Language, Polski Język Migowy, PGM, British Sign Language, BSL, or Deutsche Gebärdensprache. Yes, yes. Christian, listen carefully, thank you. Deutsche Gebärdensprache is, of course, all this language are official languages. And in Polish, and in Poland, and I think in other countries too, sign languages and group of deaf people can treat as minority, as language minority. It is for Polish deaf people very, very important idea. And for example, in sign languages, one sign is one word, noun or verb. Spelling uses, if we haven't a special thing, we can, for example, use letters when we would like to show what is our name. My name is, in Polish sign language, R-E-M-E, Remi, yes? But of course, spelling for deaf people is not very comfortable because, you know, for them, for all, maybe not for all of them, but for the huge group, it's only the letters. It's nothing. It's not a word. It's only the letters, which means nothing. Yes, R-E-M-E. Okay, name. Okay, I understand. But when we would like to explain something, when we would like to, for example, show a name of the species, we have a problem because, of course, deaf people have a sign for popular animals, but they have a sign for the bear. I try to show. It's like this, but we have not only one species of bear. We have brown bear, bear and brown, and we have the polar bear. And it's a problem because polar in Polish Sign Language have the same sign like snow. And when we can show polar bear, polar, we can bear and snow. What does it mean? The bear under the snow? I don't understand it. But we can use other word. Bear, white. It works. And how to name species using sign languages? Only deafs can help us. And we try to consult with them how create species names, and we work together. The next group and the same word. We work together. We teach and we learn each other. It is very, very important. It's a picture from the Polish Deaf Society when we show some pictures and when we try to create the new signs. And the third group, people with ASD, help us too. But first we have to find common language or solution to understand each other. We means now, and third time, together. People with ASD found the solution. They, not we, educators, they found the solution and prepared it for us. This is a special book with pictures. Pictures who can help us, educators or other workers in the zoo, understand people with ASD, with problem with communication with us. And we can use it. And why deaf, visually impaired, and ASD people are important? Why I speak about it? 1% of all people in all of the world has ASD. It's a huge group, I think. 70 million people are deaf. It's twice more than in Poland live. 36 million people are visual impaired. I mean 100% visual impaired. This huge group can protect species and nature with us. It's a huge group. It's more than, I think, 200 million people which would like to help us, which would like to work together with us. And I would like to say you thank you. I would like to show you dziękuję in Polish Braille alphabet, and I would like to show you thank you in two sign languages: English, British Sign Language, and Polish. Thank you.